Good morning, my friends and my fellow jewelry designers. Today, actually, first let me introduce myself. I'm Irina, Irina Miech. I'm at Eclectica in Brookfield, Wisconsin. And today, we are going to talk about designing jewelry using some pretty eclectic elements. Not anything crazy, but people ask me all the time, would you ever put glass with stone? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I love mixing different elements. And so I designed a couple of pieces that demonstrate just that. In fact, because I chose to feature stone and glass in the same pieces, this gives me an opportunity to talk about one of my favorite things, and that is the reproduction beads that we are so well known for in this industry.
Robin says hi.
Good morning, Robin. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. So if you guys have questions, comments, if you just want to say good morning, you know I love saying good morning to you guys, and what a beautiful sunny Wisconsin morning it is today. So I'm showing you a tassel, again using some reproduction beads. There is a little bit of stone, metal, all sorts of fun things.
Pam says good morning, Irina and Tony.
Good morning, Pam.
Lynn says hi, Irina and Tony. And Janice says good morning from Alabama.
And good morning, Lynn and Janice from Alabama. So I'm so glad you guys are able to join me this morning. I have some fun tips to share with you. I have something a little bit different in terms of findings. I'm just going to tease you a little bit. So do you see this little black, kind of a flattish cylinder, or maybe a rondelle looking bead right there? That is actually a crimp. So that is something I'm going to demo a little bit later in the video. So we have lots of fun things to talk about.
And Laura says hi, Irina and Tony.
Good morning, Laura. Thank you for joining us. So here is a pair of very, very simple earrings. And again, these are made with our acorn reproduction beads. So one of the things I would like to tell you about are these reproduction beads. Actually, these are quite unique. And the reason when we talk about combining glass and beads, I like to use vintage beads or reproduction beads. Here is a beautiful carnelian druzy, and here we have a gorgeous, gorgeous vintage ring. I don't know if you can see the beautiful pattern on this ring. This is actually a piece that was made in occupied Japan. So this piece is over 70 years old. So if you're familiar with beads that were made in occupied Japan, they are very beautifully detailed. A lot of them are floral, and they're just very unique looking. And of course, our reproduction beads. Let me tell you just a little bit about these. So years ago, we found some vintage molds and vintage glass cane. And we had that vintage cane made into some very beautiful beads. And this is one of them. If you can see, I hope the camera picks it up. It's a beautiful two-tone, kind of a gray and red. And of course, we do have these in our Etsy store, as well as groupings of these gorgeous druzy carnelian pieces. So years ago, we made these beads. They're made in Germany. Unlike most of the glass beads you buy today, they're actually not made in the Czech Republic. So they're made by German artisans who come from generations of making glass beads. And so when you look at these, not only are the shapes quite unique, but also the colors. Most of them are two-tone, some of them are even three-tone, and they're just very beautiful. I feel that they mix with stone very, very well. They have those very rich colors that I like putting together with stone. So as you design with your stone beads, with your glass beads, if you are working a little bit outside of your own comfort zone in terms of color, I find that it helps to make little piles. And I didn't grab a sample of different beads, but you can just make different piles of stone beads and glass beads and pull out whatever you don't feel belongs. And you might come up with some great combos that way.
Allison says, good morning from Texas. Happy Friday.
Good morning, Allison, and happy Friday to you as well. I hope it's a great creative and designing Friday for you. Okay, so now let's move along. So, of course, as you know, a lot of good technique is really very, very simple technique. So if you've seen me make wrapped loops like a schmillion times, I apologize. Here comes another wrapped loop. So I just put one of my really cool acorn beads on this little ball pin. See the little ball at the bottom? I love ball pins. They just add a little bit of nice detail.
Ruth says she's going to watch the replay when she gets to work. The snow is really coming down in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh boy. Well, be safe as you drive to work, and I'm thrilled that you're going to watch me later. Okay, so now I'm going to make a 90-degree angle, and there is the beginning of my wrap loop. So every good wrap loop starts with a nice crisp 90-degree angle. And I'm going to use my round nose. If I were making a lot of loops, I would be using my bail making wobbers or bail making pliers. But because I'm just making a few little loops, I am good with my round nose pliers. So there's the loop. And now we're going to wrap it.
Robin loves the acorn beads and is wondering if we sell them.
Absolutely, Robin. Thank you so much for asking. We have quite a few different colors in our Etsy shop. We have this beautiful olive green, and there's the red and gray. There is a really kind of fun yellow purple, and there are a bunch of really good colors. And they're not the colors that you ever see anywhere else because, of course, they're made with vintage glass cane.
Darla says good morning from Washington State, and she loves our German vintage beads.
Thank you so much, Darla, and good morning. Thank you for joining us from Washington State. So there's my wrapped loop, and of course that is one of the basics that I use everywhere. I mean, really, if you know how to make a wrapped loop and open and close a jump ring, you're all set. Really, that's all you need to do to know how to do in order to start making beautiful jewelry.
Robin says love them all, and she's going to look for them.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm about to open a jump ring. So you always want to use a chain nose and a flat nose. Open it like this without making the diameter of the jump ring larger. Before I close my little jump ring, I'm just going to sneak in an ear wire into the jump ring, close the jump ring, and guess what? We just made an earring. How simple was that? And of course, you could make this much more elaborate by adding maybe some decorative jump rings or whatever other detail. You can add other color. But, you know, if you are just making a simple earring, especially if you're going to make an elaborate necklace, this is more than enough. Okay, so now let's talk about designing. When I design, I love color. And granted, some of my pieces are just made out of, especially when I work with metal clay, then I don't have quite as much color. But I also love designing with stone and glass. I love color. And I like to work with a rich palette of color that incorporates more than just, let's say, red or just green. So I like to throw in colors that are complementary. And, in stringing beads, there's a lot of experimenting. You can always string something onto your stringing material, soft flex in this case, and if you are not happy with the look, you can always take it off and do something else. Okay, so this piece, so let me just point out, so this piece incorporates so many different elements. So first I have in the center, I have the carnelian druzy. And this is obviously an asymmetrical piece. So a lot of people tell me that, a lot of my students actually tell me that they struggle with asymmetry. They would like to design asymmetrically, but they have a hard time doing so. So I'd like to talk a little bit about designing asymmetrically. You can see that there's no symmetry right here, but there's balance. At least to my eye, there's balance. So what does that mean? If we were to take all of the beads from my left side and put them in one little pile, and then we were to take all of the beads from my right side and put them in the other pile, they would appear as if they take about the same amount of room.
Allison loves it.
Thank you so much, Allison. So as you design, just, experiment with different beads. So if I'm going to have some beads that are dangling off the main necklace, I pay attention to the fact that this bead let's say these three beads combined appear to take up as much room as these. Okay, so these beads on my right are actually a little bit smaller, that is true. But then I have this beautiful smoky quartz bead that is quite a bit larger than anything on my left side. So that compensates size-wise. In the sample that I am going to be demonstrating on, I actually did take the time already to pre-string. So this is the same idea. Here, let me first put it over here so we can kind of dissect some of the elements.
Rita says good morning.
Good morning, Rita. Thanks for joining me. So again, I have a central element, which is quite different from my first necklace. Let me just move some things around. And then I have these, I guess, pendants or charms hanging off. And it doesn't have to be specifically pendants or charms. As you can see, I have some segments of chain. I have these, by the way, are also our beautiful reproduction beads, which are so, because they're neutral in color, they're so complementary to either color palette, either the predominantly red or orange color palette or the predominantly green color palette. It's nice to have some neutrals to kind of just pull it all in.
Robin says, I love this one.
Thank you so much, Robin. I'm so glad you do. So I really like to mix up both my beads and also the kinetic elements. So a kinetic element can be anything that moves. So here, for example, I love these little floral bead caps, and they're so fun to use. What I love is that you can put any bead inside this bead cap. Let me just show you. And it gives us a little subtle color, and then it gives us a three-dimensional shape.
Allison says, asymmetry is difficult to create, but oh so beautiful. You have to let your creative spirit be free.
Thank you so much for saying that, Allison. I completely agree with you.
But sometimes difficult for her technique.
Well, if you like the look, just allow yourself to play a little bit. Allow yourself to not be so bogged down with the end result. And again, here are my little temporary holders for my necklace, and I just want to show you. So it's very easy to do something like this Or maybe you're working with a different tool, but there are a lot of different tools you can use that can temporarily hold your piece as you're working on it. And you can experiment with different shapes and colors and see what you get. It might be fun.
Robin likes them together.
Oh, thank you, Robin. Actually, I would have to agree.
And Rita says, oh, beautiful bead, looks like a blooming flower.
Thank you. And you know, I love anything that is botanical. I love this beautiful tree. It's a really, really great component because it's so versatile, and we do have that one in our Etsy shop.
Nierka says, good morning.
Good morning, Nierka.
And
Thanks for joining me.
Allison says, the bead cap is beautiful.
Thank you so much, Allison.
And Nora says, neat way to use a bead cap.
Hey, Nora. Thanks so much. Okay, guys. So anyway, it's so fun to play with colors and shapes. And if you want to play with asymmetry, this is sort of my rule. It needs to look as if it takes up about the same amount of space. Now, from a very practical side of things actually hanging as you wear them correctly, it's good for the two sides to weigh about the same, especially if you don't have a very heavy centerpiece. So if you have one side that is very heavy and the other is very light, then you're not going to like how it actually fits on your neck or how it hangs.
And Nierka says, beautiful necklace.
Thank you so much, Nierka. Okay, guys, so now I'm going to show you a finding that you probably have never seen before. This is a very obscure little finding, and we actually found it quite a while ago, and unfortunately we cannot get them again. So we have a number of them in the store and in our Etsy shop, but once we run out, that's that. So I actually love this little finding. It's so obscure, nobody really knows about it. This is a locking crimp. So it's a little cylinder with a kind of a little bump on the side. You can see that little bump. And so that little bump is kind of a plunger. So as soon as we get this little finding into wherever we need it to sit, we're going to use a chain nose pliers to push that little plunger in, and it's going to hold our piece permanently in place. So let's see how that works. I'm going to string this little locking crimp onto my soft flex wire, and I love soft flex wire. It is so strong, and I have been using it for many, many years. And this is 0.014, or the smaller size of soft flex. So now I hope you're familiar with this little finding. So this is a wire guardian. You can see it's shaped kind of like a little,
Horseshoe.
A horseshoe. Thank you, Bonnie. So it's shaped like a little horseshoe, and it has a channel. So right there. So this is where our soft flex fits, and we go right back through our little wire guardian right there.
Rita says if you put a couple of pins with the bead cap and different bead colors, it will look like a bouquet of flowers.
You're absolutely right. Thank you, Rita. That sounds absolutely beautiful. Okay, so now we're just going to push the locking crimp right up to our little horseshoe or our wire guardian. And do you see what I'm doing? I'm just closing it slightly. And I am going to, so you see how I just pushed the locking crimp right up to my wire guardian. And now I'm going to use a chain nose pliers to squeeze it nice and tight. So make sure that that little plunger goes all the way in where you can't even see where it used to be. So now nothing is sticking out of my little crimp bead. Again, this is not a traditional crimp bead. And
Irina, sometimes people ask, why do I need a wire guardian?
oh, good point. So Bonnie just asked, or actually made a great comment. Why do we need a wire guardian? A wire guardian is actually going to protect your wire from rubbing. It's also, in my mind, it's also a cleaner look. I like how it looks. And also, it allows me to design a little bit differently. So if I didn't have a wire guardian, I would have had to string my soft flex wire into some type of chain link or some type of a ring or a clasp. And this way I can go into a wire guardian and connect it to the component of my choice later, which I'm going to show you. I am actually going to share how I make my jewelry and how you can make your jewelry so that it's adjustable to whatever length you want.
Lynn says, hi, Irina and Tony. Wish I could watch now, but I'll have to watch the replay. Looks so interesting.
Thank you so much, Lynn. We will miss you, and you have a wonderful day. Okay, so one side is done. So you might be thinking, this is a little bit too short for a necklace. But again, this is really part of how all of my jewelry is made. All of my jewelry is made of two parts, the focal part and the chain part. And in fact, I actually teach a class. It's called Mix and Match. And I share a lot of tips and techniques on how to make this kind of jewelry in that class. There's a lot of different techniques. So this is kind of the very simplified version of that class. So what I'm doing right now is doing the same exact thing on the other side, where I already have my locking crimp on here. I'm going through my wire guardian and back through the locking crimp.
Nora says that's a great and fun class.
Thank you so much, Nora. I have to say it's one of my most popular classes, and you learn so much technique in that class, including what? Knotting and transitioning from leather to just all sorts of different techniques. It's a long class. It's a design class, and you know, after that class, I guarantee you will never design in the same way. So just squeezing that little wire guardian a little bit, bringing in the two sides, and now I'm going to take up all of the slack. And you probably know that when you work with soft flex wire, it's important not to make it too tight. You still want a little bit of movement, which is what I have here.
Robin says, I want some of those crimps.
Thank you, Robin. I'm so glad. I guarantee you're going to love these crimps. They're so easy to use, and I love the look of them. I really wish they were more readily available, because I think everybody should design with these crimps. They're so easy, and I just think they look so sleek. They just look like a little bead at the end of your necklace or your grouping. Okay, so now here I have my focal point component. Almost done, but not quite. Before I consider this finished, I am going to find some chain and some jump rings and connect a little piece of chain to each side, and that is going to complete my focal point piece.
Robin says, yes, they look so good.
Thank you so much, Robin. So you can really use just about any kind of chain. I think I'll use this little piece of chain that I happen to have grabbed.
Sonny says, hi, Irina and Tony. Will you be in Tucson this year? And she received her package of magnetic clasps. Thank you.
Oh, thank thank you so much. So yes, we are definitely going to be in Tucson this year. We used to sell many years ago. We actually had multiple locations in Tucson. We used to bring a whole crew of people, and actually we had lots of fun. We would rent a big condo and we would all hang out together. But that was many years ago. So now we do not sell in Tucson anymore, but we do a lot of buying in Tucson, which actually brings me to a really good point. When we go to Tucson, primarily, we go there to connect with some of our distributors and also find new distributors. And we end up buying a lot of our stone in Tucson. So I love natural stone. I love finding unique natural stone. And I love knowing what you guys like. If you saw my video that I did last night, it was actually on a really simple technique. I did stretchy bracelets last night, and I used some really fun, unique stones like labradorite. I had these beautiful labradorite cubes and rhyolite, which I also really love. Both of those are my favorites. So I would love to know what your favorites are. So if you can please type them in and let me know what you like so that I can be sure to look for them in Tucson.
Pam is wondering if the locking crimp is a twofer, meaning is it a crimp and a crimp cover?
It is indeed. Thank you for saying that. I guess it's an interesting way to put it. It is a twofer. Technically there's no cover, but it looks so sleek and finished that you don't actually need a cover.
Sonny loves pearls.
Thank you, Sonny. I love pearls too.
And Joan loved the stretchy bracelet class.
Yay! I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you watched it. And if you guys haven't watched it, it's on my Facebook page. This is today this is the Eclectica Facebook page, and last night's video is on the Irina Miech Facebook page. So if you are making stretchy bracelets, in fact, I forgot to grab one of them. I will ask Bonnie to grab one of my stretchy bracelets, the one with the acorns, and I will show you. So this is a bit of a crossover. Thanks, Bonnie. So this is a little bit of a crossover. So here, let me model this for you. This actually goes really well with what I have on today. Check it out. So here are my little acorns, the reproduction acorns. And I talked about the different stringing materials, as well as how to hide the knots when you make your stretchy bracelets.
Sonny was hoping to see a close-up of the crimp.
Oh, yes. So let me show you the crimp again. Let me find one. So these are locking crimps. So here, let me show it to you this is like flat, and then I'll turn it so that you can see what it looks like from the side. So it looks exactly like a little rondelle with a little appendage sticking out of it. So now let me string it onto this leftover piece of soft flex, and I will show it to you from the side. Can you see it? So there's like a little, maybe 1 millimeter piece, almost looks like wire sticking out. And when you plunge that little piece in, it holds your crimp on permanently.
Could we see the finished one?
And let me show you the finished one. So this is what it looks like. This is the one that I just did. And if you look very, very closely, and it's so subtle that I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but you can barely see a dot left over from that little plunger. And this is what it looks like from the side.
And Lynn says she's interested in 2 to 3 millimeter stones in turquoise or just about any other stone, LOL.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love those little teeny tiny machine cut beads. And we have like a million of them in the store, but I will most certainly look for more in some beautiful, interesting stones. Thank you for that input. Okay, guys, so we've talked a little bit about asymmetry, we talked about designing, we talked about these awesome little crimps. So now let me show you how I would use something like this. So this is what I do in my real life. I don't make any necklace in one part. So everything is a two-parter. In fact, some of these are just from my actual jewelry collection. And today I will show you how to make a really simple version of it. So all of these are, I guess, necklace straps or chain parts, right? So we have the tops and the bottoms, and you will notice that all of these are different lengths. So now that we made our bracelet, now that we made our necklace, this is what I can do. I can simply connect with, I am going to need a slightly larger ring at the end of each end. So just bear with me as I add a little ring to each end.
Lynn said she was actually going to stop in today.
Oh, fantastic, Lynn. Thank you.
And Joan is wondering if those crimps are at the store.
We do have those crimps at the store. And I think because most people just don't know what to do with them, they're one of the most overlooked products. This is, I guess, our well-kept secret because they're so little and kind of obscure, But now that you know what to do with them, you are in on the secret.
And Ophine says hi.
Hello, Ophine.
And Pam loves the idea of the necklace straps.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you do. Thank you, Pam. I mean, this is the kind of jewelry I live in every day because, sometimes you want the same, I have to say, the longest part of making something like this is just playing with all of the beads. And once you have designed this centerpiece, you really want to be able to wear it in any way that you want to wear it. So you can make it short, you can make it a choker, you can make it a long necklace, you can make it in between. Very often I layer my jewelry. So I love being able to wear these any length that I want. So here I just connect it on one side to the jump ring. Sometimes I will use very decorative jump rings. Sometimes I will use larger chain links. So really anything that makes you happy. So this is probably a 30-inch necklace at this point. Okay, so now let me continue and I will show you how to make this into a short necklace. So here I have a much shorter neck strap. And now we are just going to clip this on to our little rings at the end. And now it's a much shorter necklace. And remember when we said that it looks pretty fun with the other component? Well, there's no reason why we couldn't wear these together because we could layer them.
Lynn says, wow, love it.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Okay, so now I think what I'm going to do next is show you how to make these neck straps. So let me just locate my leather and make a little room right here. So here I have a piece of leather. In fact, I have a couple of pieces of leather, and I'm going to show you two different ways of making these types of neck straps. So, in fact, there are millions of variations that I have. Some of mine are knotted, they have knotted parts. Some of mine have wrapped loops, as you've seen on this one. Some are very simple and they're just chain. Some combine multiple variations. So there are many, many ways to make these unique and fun in your own. You can be very creative, not just with the centerpieces, but also with the chain pieces.
Ophine loves this idea too.
Thank you so much, Ophine. All right, so again, using the same glue I used last night for the stretchy bracelets. This is the GS Hypo Cement, and be sure to have good ventilation when you use glue. Okay, so this is very, very simple. I'm going to use one of these little 3-part crimps. So it's all about crimps today, right? So do you see how this is a component that has a loop? And it has essentially 3 parts. This central part collapses just like a crimp does. Okay, so we are going to put a little bit of the glue on at the end of our leather, and this is 1.5 millimeter leather. And so just a little tiny bit of glue. And sometimes for this purpose, I will also use the super new glue, but this is just a little bit more gooey. So GS Hypo Cement has a little more viscosity, and you put your leather strap all the way in until it's stopped by the end of the crimp. Okay, so it goes all the way in, and now I'm going to use my chain nose pliers, and while the glue is still tacky, simply crimp the center of this 3-part crimp. And now I'm going to do the other side.
Sonia is wondering what millimeter size crimp are you using?
So this is the crimp that is intended for the 1.5 millimeter leather. So I want to say the inner diameter of this crimp is about 2 millimeters. And the reason I say about is because, you know, sometimes you buy leather and it's 2 millimeters and you try to use it with the 2 millimeter crimp and it's not going to work. And that's because, or sometimes it will and sometimes it won't, because everything varies just by fractions of a millimeter. So sometimes you just have to experiment. But I want to say that this is a 2 millimeter inner diameter crimp and 1.5 millimeter leather. So you can see how the 2 sides are crimped, and that's it. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to let this dry for just a little bit. We'll come back to it. And in the meantime, I will show you the other way to do it. So these you guys have seen me demo before, especially if you have watched my videos, because, well, otherwise you wouldn't have seen me use them. Unless, of course, you've taken a class from me. So this is an open leather and component, and it has 4 little teeth on the inside. You can see it's like a little flower, okay? And each little petal has a little tooth on the inside of it. So what I'm going to do is put a little glue right on the inside of this component. I could also have put a little glue on the leather. I mean, really, it's kind of a horse apiece. And so the leather goes right in. And again, while the component is still tacky, we are going to use our chain nose pliers. And it's important to not overfill the component with glue, otherwise you will have glue all over your chain nose pliers. So I guess the other way to control it is just put a little glue right at the end of the leather. Then you can see exactly where it's going. And because this glue, you know what, I used just a little bit too much. I'm going to remove it. I always have a little bit, you know, of scrap paper. And this way, if I need to remove a little glue, it's right there for me. And we are going to connect. We're going to connect this component this leather and permanently to the leather by crimping it on while the glue is tacky and set it aside. All
Can
right.
we see them together?
So let's look at these together. So we have two different types of ways to finish the leather. And now we're going to make it into a functional piece by adding a little chain.
Sonny says she's never seen this type of crimp.
Oh, well, you know what? I love comments like that. I love it when I introduce you guys to something that you have never seen before, because then I know I am doing my job right.
We also have larger crimps for larger leather, or you can put multiple pieces of leather in.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. You know what? Bonnie just made an awesome point. We do have larger crimps for larger leather. And in fact, if you go back in our library of videos, I have made entire videos on the variations of working with leather. So if you guys are a little bit new to this, I really recommend that you find that video. Maybe we will ask we will ask Lauren to please have a link to one of those videos if you can find it, and you can watch it. So if you're new to making jewelry, I have all sorts of videos on different techniques, including this.
Rita loves those crimps.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. We're talking about the leather crimps, right?
And Sonny says, yes, are they called leather crimp covers?
What are they called exactly, Bonnie?
Crimp ends?
I want to say they're called crimp ends. I
Pinch
think,
ends?
yes. Oh my gosh, brilliant. Okay, so we call them pinch ends. That's right. But I think that if you explain that they're for leather and whatnot, I am sure that everybody in the store will know exactly what they are. And I don't know if we have them in our Etsy shop, but again, you know, I always tell you about our awesome Kathy who works in mail order and who will find anything you guys want. If we have it in the store, she will most definitely find it. So I kind of wish that I would have grabbed slightly larger chain, but this is working. And okay, so this is what I'm doing. I just used a jump ring on each end. And the jump ring is connecting each crimp to a little bit of chain. And again, you can use commercially made chain, or you can use chain that is that you make by creating loops. And really whatever works for you. Okay, so because I'm using so many black findings in these pieces, I decided to create kind of a mix and match look, combining silver and gunmetal, which I really like the look of. I don't know if you guys noticed. That is exactly what I did on both of these necklaces, where I used some gunmetal findings like here, and of course the little crimps. I threw in some black because I think it really complements the silver. All right, so now I'm connecting a lobster claw clasp to each end of this chain component. And again, when you open jump rings, the most convenient way to do this is by holding your chain nose and your flat nose at a really good 90-degree angle to one another. So that is what works for me really, really well. And here goes our second lobster claw clasp. And okay, how quick was that? So now my next strap is done, and now I can use it to connect to either one of these focal point pieces, so I can wear it just as is. So you get the idea. So this is what makes a full necklace. And of course, now I can trade out the neck part of it for any of the longer or shorter ones that I showed you before. I could use this one and make it really long. And in fact, this is, oh, what do you call it?
Red Creek Jasper.
Thank you, Bonnie. This is the beautiful Red Creek Jasper, where I did create my own chain right here. So you can embellish these however you want to.
Lynn says, you make it look so easy. Love it.
Thank you so much, Lynn. And you know, that's actually one of my goals, is to show you guys how very, very easy it is to create jewelry. You really don't have to know a lot to start creating beautiful jewelry. And sometimes, even if you're already creating jewelry, just maybe learning some new tips or new technique is very helpful. So one thing that I was going to do today also was this tassel, but it looks like I'm actually running out of time, and I don't think I can do it justice because I was going to show you some variations. In fact, you know what? Let me give you a little teaser, because I just realized that since I'm running out of time, I'm going to do this next week instead of today. But before we call it a day, I'm going to show you, actually, before I take this off. So here is my tassel that we're going to do next week. And I used a bail on it. And of course, you know what a bail is for. You can put it on any piece of leather or chain or whatever it is that you have. You can bead around it. But wait, there is more. You can do something so fun with it. And this is exactly what I do with my tassels. So whenever I make a tassel that I am going to wear, instead of putting it on a bail, I actually put it on a jump ring. Or not on a jump ring, on a large decorative ring. So I will use a jump ring to put it on a large decorative ring.
Rita says, beautiful tassel. Nirka loves the tassel.
Thank you so much, Rita and Nirka. I love tassels. I love this kinetic movement in my jewelry pieces. So this is a decorative ring. And you could use any decorative ring. In fact, I have a couple right here. Well, I just realized these are the same pattern, so let me grab one more just for fun. So I will use a number of fun decorative rings in my work, and I love putting my tassels on the ring instead of the bail, because show you what it allows me to do. So I can take any of my chain components that normally, this is the top component, right? Because I just showed you how I wear this component with a focal point piece, right? And it could be a pendant, it could be a grouping of elements, something like this, what we just made. But instead, I'm actually going to use it to connect to this decorative ring with a lark's head knot. And so you saw I just tied a knot. I'm going to pull it a little tighter. And now, what are we going to do with this? So we are going to find one of our other neck straps or chains, and we're going to connect one lobster claw into the other lobster claw. And look, now I can wear this all together. So this can be a long necklace. I'm trying to hold it so that Tony can get the whole thing in. So this can be worn around my neck. So I'm actually using a double chain or a double neck strap. So as you can see, these are very versatile. Let me connect it to something a little shorter so maybe it's easier.
Nirka says, awesome idea, and Pam says, wow.
Thank you so much, ladies. So I hope you're getting excited about this because you know what this allows me to do with all my pieces is really anything in my jewelry wardrobe that I have at home can be worn in so many different ways. Everything is super, super versatile, and I can really customize it to anything that I wear.
Sunny says, great idea. And Rita says, so elegant and beautiful.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you.
And Grimalda says, very nice ideas.
Thank you so much, Grimalda. So this is a great way to layer your jewelry. It's a great way to mix things up, make things fresh and new every time you wear something because it's really never the same. So I hope that you enjoy this as much as I do. And again, I know that I showed, where's my tassel? So I know I showed this tassel in as I gave you a preview for today's video. But actually, I am going to save this for next week. And in fact, I just might add a little surprise to this. So next week, we're going to make this tassel and a few more things. It'll be a surprise to me as well as to you. So, so Bonnie is giggling. So thank you so much for joining me today, ladies. I hope you have a beautiful and creative day. Thank you so much.